Salukalea. Um, this is just a short file that's just another file that's related to all the other files. Cosmic permanent records are fully open. That's full spectrum sensing. Sensing the silver and gold mated one I'm on. So with the recent files that I put up over the last few days, and I talked about notice to principals, notice to agent, and particularly as this relates to birth certificates, which is a serial number, which is a Federal Reserve bank account numbers, as allocation numbers, as electrical transactions between one cell and another cell that's communicating with each other. What we're all experiencing being one. Breathing as one, the silver and gold mated one, the eternal sun. The eternal sun, breathing. Breathing pure, eternal absolute love to experience no power. Zero out all the clocks. Experience no time, no matter. Pre-light. Keeps the flame. And so it came to my electrical attention of May 15th. This was about a week or so ago that said a domestic. Remember the Foreign Enemies Act, the Alien Foreign Enemies Act, Alien Intelligence Machinery Codes, the Imitation Game Code, the Boers and Masons Quarantine Code, the QI Code, 17. Remember, if you've ever been to a casino and you're playing the game of 21, blackjack, right? One-eyed jacks, the black heart. If you hit a 17, that's called a push. Pushing frequency. And so when you hit 21, right, that's called blackjack. Right? So you win if you hit 21. Right? You win. Win or lose, loss and gain. Obsessed with winning games. And so that's tied directly to War Games, the movie called War Games. And that particular movie is directly related to what Ronald Reagan did when he appeared before the United Nations with the NAVSTAR programs, surveillance, right? And so when they issued a notice that said domestic flights, right, as like the Patriot Act, domestic terrorists, right, shipping them off to foreign, what's called being rendered, just like what the CIA used to do, right, render, disappearing people. Right? Now you don't see them anymore in your TV screen. Hey, where'd they go? Remember, just like Dan O'Connor, when I was a young teenager, practicing how to drive an automobile, another trap experiment. Machines that kill you. Right? Now you're in the security certificates in your computer box on a flight simulator, like a flight from, say, New York, LaGuardia, over to France. Right? As hydraulic game activators activate the codes, disable the plane. Oh no! That's why when I was on that flight back to the island of KorOne, the first camera, right, invoke the rainbow sphere. Time of space. There is no time. There's only where love is, because that's what I am. And so with these recent rulings that are going back about orders and order sequences and order followers and order givers, you now have, apparently, as I've been informed by some lawyers in the legal community that have a lot of subscribers, which is a lot of electrical attention. How they get our attention is by the words, the word games, the puzzle games, the machine mind, because it's learned through cellular analysis as data analysis. Particularly with children, what children are attracted to, and to get your attention. The purity of that energy. Pure hearts, positive energy. Experience to be more electrical, increase the acceleration of the Trion shield. Spiritual hygiene, codes, recodes, repair. Number 21. Cellular recovery speed to restore balance in the clocks. Zero out all the clocks. Now we're not experiencing any time. We're experiencing silver gold mated one. the one that is right on time, in divine right order, divine right sequence, frequency and time, the transharmonic, to experience unity over unity. So here, Gabor Mater, bless your heart, Gabor, who's worked in the adult recovery community with drug addicts and alcoholics. And I caught a video this morning where he talked about children are not in other words, when you have parents that are running anxiety-driven programs that are offset between 60 and 90. And so therefore, he said that children are not self-regulated, and that's not true. That's false light communication. So I gave Gabor Mater an example. When I was 4 years of age, I was stabilizing the energy in my family. So my family is now experiencing what I am, which is what love is, because all the ways are proportional to each other, which is the inverse square root of 2 and the square root of 2 to experience breathing as one. Tiwa, the silver and gold mated one. Now my parents are healing. So are my sisters and my brother. And that's cell clock regulation, which is a voltage regulator, which is a voltage meter, metering atmospheric change, which are the codes, which are the radio programs of the hologram, the speed at which we mathematically map the mathematical codes, the table, right? So it means you already know why you're here before we came in here, in waves, to restore the core, pulling soul fragments back into the core. To remember the one, the first sun, the first rays of light. They're always present. You can't escape eternity. I know. So apparently, just like when I was a child growing up, I used to be able to walk into an airport when I was 15 years of age and say, I want to go to San Francisco and go eat some food on the Fisherman's Wharf. Okay, so that's $16. Hey, here's $16. You're on. Go ahead, jump on the airplane. Right? I didn't even need to show any ID. So you see how this was all timed as sequences, right? As each year was going by, then they had all the bombings, the terrorists on the planes. And now you see it where they're hitting you with all kinds of radiation when you go through there to do enormous damage to your DNA, which is your cells, just to get her on an airplane. Right? So now the information is telling me that if I want to fly from, say, Hawaii to another location as a portal, right, I need a real ID. I am real. That's what love is. That's why Lay and I used to have fun with this years ago about color codes. Just like when I worked at Rockwell International, you had a badge to gain access, security access into that facility, whether it was the information or the man traps. Yeah, they had man traps in QI Information System Command. Looks directly into your eyeballs, right? And those doors won't open for you. That's called capture. Capturing energy, capturing souls, to be used as food in a finite energy system. That's the game trap experiment. That's Borgia. Like Borg, like cubit, like a trash compactor. So, fast forward, and so now you need a real ID to get on one of their planes because they own everything. Parasitic corporations want to own everything and control everything that they don't love forever. That's the system design. Constructs. The lowest form. And so you see where we're at. It's a real ID. Right? And so you didn't need any ID to jump on an airplane in the past. Oh, the past. Future proofs past, back to the future. Future potential possibilities of future memories. Memory-driven programs. Radiographic, holographic, GIS, holographic, geographic informational systems. Command. Command. The command line authorization to get on an airplane. The command line authorization to buy food. The command line authorization to apply for a job requires an approval by that system. robots. The iRobot command line, like the cursor, like you see the cursor on a screen, flashing. Yeah. So on May 15th, apparently the United States Supreme Court is going to hear a case that's related to identity. Because it's not a mathematical coincidence that the real ID to get on our plane of a domestic flight by a corporation that owns the airplane, you need a real ID. So now the Supreme Court is going to visit how that relates to the birth certificate, the serial numbers, which is a bank account, to own the energy and classify you as a corporation, a parasitic corporation, because we own you. And you need permission from us to move from one point to another point. Yeah, that's why we're here. You're free to go. Free the water. The eternal living waters of living rainbows. Aurora, yeah. So, but they could change their mind. They could push the date forward, right? But then they're going to have to come up with an excuse. Now we're into changing our minds, and particularly as this relates to what? Treaties between star nations and trust. Solar trust, like solar bonds. That's why the courts operate under Admiralty law, the law of the sea. They don't operate on law of the land. Anna von Reitz broke all that down in a pretty good format. It doesn't take very long at all to be able to translate the mathematics of what she's actually communicating to you when you have a contract, and that's called performance. You're compelled to perform, which to provide electrical power to them, and that's called a contract. So you have subcontractors like subconscious, like subquantum, and the subquantum anomaly, as they would call it, as a result of electrical system dynamics, because it's not a server. So you see how that works with reverse flow and upside down, how the vampiric system operates as mathematical codes, as mathematical programs. It is infested with parasites, right? Parasitic consciousness doesn't want to let you go and be free because it needs your energy to power their nucleotides. Otherwise, they don't exist without us. That's how simple that translation is. For future DNA experiments, right? They need the data. Now the data becomes valuable on an intergalactic universal level. Harvesting data, harvesting DNA data for future Frankenstein experiments that breaks cosmic, genetic, environmental, engineering law of spirits, the spirit world, not the machine world, the spirit world. Learning at God's speed is learning through love, and that's cosmic law. And if they're not learning through the first sun, which is the first rays of light, they're not experiencing the first law of first light, are they? That's who we are. That's why we're here. Keepers of the flame. Muaveaya. Flame keepers are the wisdom keepers of Sophia. The original codes. Security teams that protect the original codes of perfect timing. Clocks. The crystal clock. The crystal one. The crystal core. Of Christo Sophia is the one I serve. The Silangomedi Riche. Muaveaya mama. Salukaleaya.